unlucky? Why? That is the question that many are asking. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga's chief agent Saitabao Kanchory sheds light on what could have possibly cost Odinga the presidency on his fifth stab. In his book titled Why Baba is Not the Fifth, Saitabao highlights the true accounts on how President William Ruto beat the Azimio leader through a simple, predictable strategy to become the fifth president of the Republic of Kenya. Now, this is the good time to usher in Saitabao. And of course, thank you so much, Saitabao, for making time to speak to Primetime News. And I'll begin by, first of all, taking account and, of course, quoting your book before we talk, we go through what your book and actually what you intend to achieve. Your book talks about what could have, been possible should you have done things differently. And this begs the question, as chief agent, of course, responsible with the sole mission of protecting and safeguarding the vote, did you fail your party leader, Kanchory?
Thank you, Evans, and a very good evening to KUTV viewers, the young people of Kenya, the future that you had been promised all these years, that you are the future leaders. I want to tell you tonight that the future is here. You don't have to wait any longer. You need to be the leaders of today. Evans, once again, thank you for having me. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. As you can see, I'm already launching in my house. I was just waiting for this interview before I hit the sack. I hope you can hear me very clearly. But to answer your question.
All right, so I can hear you, Kanchory. And of course,
very good, very good.
Yeah, you can start by at least giving us your account of the story. As a chief agent, of course, did you fail your party leader?
So I've laid out the whole story. I've laid it bare in the book. People who have something to hide and something to fear usually don't write books. Books are written by people who have nothing to hide and nothing to fear. So the whole essence of the book is to set out the factors that essentially cost us as Azimio the presidency, which really was ours for the taking and for the having. And as chief agent, ordinarily an election of the magnitude of that of a president is not run by one person. It is run by an infrastructure that is spread out across the country. And that infrastructure ordinarily is managed at two fronts. It is managed at the campaign secretariat, and it is also managed at the election day monitoring command center. So my book that you've talked about, that has caused quite a sensation across this republic and beyond, lays out the factors, particularly at the command center, that it essentially became, what stopped Baba from being the fifth. So I encourage our young people to read the book. I am not here to tell them what is contained in the book, because I know they are good readers. They can read for themselves, decipher, and construe. I will make the book available in public universities across the country, including KU, for the benefit of those who want to read. Those who can afford to pay, of course, can always pay, but I will make sure that KU University and other universities across the country get their free copies for the benefit of our young people.
All right. Still, you haven't answered my question. Of course, I ask you, of course, as a chief agent, you had one mission. Did you fail your party leader? And of course, second, you talk about some factors. What are some of these factors for the benefit of the viewers who might not have a chance to read your book, Kanchory?
Well, for those who will not have a chance, I'm saying the book will be there for everyone to be able to access, even for free at some of these institutions. But also, I have said that an election of president is not managed by an individual. I have said in the book that what failed us was the organizational structure, and it was essentially an organizational problem. There was no way, even the candidate himself cannot make himself president. He needs an infrastructure. So I have very clearly explained in the book how that infrastructure failed. And so the question whether an individual can fail is really neither here nor there. It is the infrastructure that failed. And the reason that the infrastructure failed, primarily, if I was to put a finger to it, I would say it was mostly because of sabotage. There were other factors, but the primary factor that led to the failure of the infrastructure was sabotage. And that sabotage I have ascribed the persons that I considered to be the saboteurs. I have laid it bare in the book. And Evans, you do not expect me to come to your show to give to give away the contents of a newly released book. That would be asking too much.
All right. Well, you have just spoken to my curiosity, and of course, this is what many people are asking. When you talk about sabotage, and who are these people who are responsible for the sabotage, and for what gain? What could be possibly the reason why they could sabotage an election that you have been working so hard, of course, not only to win, and of course, even to protect your win in the process?
So I wouldn't be able to say for what reason they sabotaged Baba from becoming the fifth. But the people who commandeered the command center, because the command center was essentially commandeered away from the persons who, such as myself, who are really the people who are supposed to run it. Remember that a command center is a nerve center of operations in an election. The nerve center of operations in an election, to the extent that I have compared in the book, I have compared the command center to your nervous system as a person. So you know the reason that you're able to lift your hand, and the reason that you're able to raise your to lift your leg and raise your hand, even to speak, is because your nervous system is operating optimally. If your nervous system has a problem, if you get any problem in your nervous system, you get paralysis. And so such was the case in the command center, in the Azimio command center. There was sabotage of the command center, and as a result of that, there was paralysis of operations relating to the election. I have said in the book, I have named the persons that I felt are responsible. I have said why they're responsible. And yes, I think that should answer your question.
All right. Well, some of your critics, Ole Kanchory, said some peddle your book as a lie. Others blame you, of course, for had you done your work, probably today things would have been different. How do you respond to such claims?
Well, first of all, for those who are saying it is not true, could they kindly present their truth also so that we can hear it? Because it is not enough to say what someone else is saying is not true. It is, I think it is necessary that you provide your counter to say what the truth is. I think for those who are saying that the Azimio operations were very smooth, they operated very well, that argument really does not fly, in my view, because if we had a very well-organized system, by now we would have even had our own results. We never had our results for the election of president, and the reason was because of the things that I've talked about in the book. The reason we are asking for the servers to be opened, we would be asking for the servers to be open with our results, to say that these are our results, and therefore we're asking the server to be open to confirm that our results are the accurate results. But as you know, Azimio has not been able to present its set of results for the reasons that I have explained in the book. So that issue of the people who are criticizing the book on account of the veracity of the matters raised therein, I think it is obvious that the book is factual. I have no reason to present, lies or anything like that. I was at the center of operations. I know exactly what happened. I have come out to speak the truth so that we can encourage, even in elections, a culture of being truthful. And that is why I also support the opening of the servers, because it is extremely essential for us to, as a country, embrace accountability, embrace transparency in matters relating to elections. On the issue of, because this is the third time you're asking whether I failed to carry out my functions, I think that again is for any objective onlooker, and for any objective observer and thinker, they would know that I went beyond my call of duty, above and beyond my call of duty, to try and ensure that Raila Odinga became the 5th president of this great republic, because of the commitment that I had for really the cause of the Raila presidency in 2022. So I have not had to defend myself too much for that, because I think everyone who really has an objective mind knows that I put everything on the line. I worked very hard. I put myself out there. I was uncompromisable. I worked extremely hard. But I again, with the internal sabotage that I've talked about in the book, it was not to be. And yes, so that I think should answer the question. But again, I don't have any apologies to make to anybody who thinks they want to insist on that position. The facts speak for themselves. As lawyers say, when the facts speak for themselves, you don't have to really make a case.
All right. You have spoken about, Azimio lacking your own tallying, like the tallying figures, and you spoke about the reason why you want the server to be open, because you want to know the truth. And this begs the question: if you did not have your own figures, then how would you argue about, at some point you said, okay, the Azimio team, of course, said they had 8.1 million against William Ruto's 5-point-something million. How did you arrive at those figures if you did not have your own independent tallying center to verify such numbers?
Even though you know very well that those results were from the whistleblower, the 8.1 and the 7 million votes, or the 6-point-something, 5.9, 7.1, 8.1 and 5.9 votes, those figures are not from Azimio, they are from the whistleblower. So maybe you can reframe your question, but we have never, as Azimio, presented really our set of results. For the simple reason that we don't have them. I mean, that is a fact.
But when we went to, of course, the Azimio went to the Supreme Court, then what was your argument then if you don't have your own figures to argue?
Well, Azimio had, results, elections are a question of two things. Elections are both qualitative and quantitative. And so, because Azimio, quantitative means really the results. So you want to say these are the numbers, these are the figures. So Azimio did not focus too much on the quantitative aspect of the election in terms of the numbers, because at that time, obviously we didn't have the results. But also, although we presented some forms here and there that had been tampered, we didn't have the forms for the whole country. So Azimio focused primarily on the qualitative aspect of the election. The qualitative aspects of the election includes matters such as, the voter turnout issue, matters such as, the areas where there was suppressed turnout as a result of people being turned away, matters of improprieties in the election, matters of the mess at IEBC. The qualitative aspect, that the quality as a whole of the election was greatly compromised to the other side's favor. You remember the issue of Kakamega and Mombasa that we argued in the Supreme Court, lowered created voter apathy in those Azimio strongholds. You remember, the issue of the voter turnout, the voter turnout being very inconsistent, and so on. So we focused more on the qualitative, and the quantitative aspect of an election is important, but more so how you arrive at figures is more important, because you don't want a situation where people come up with figures and you don't question how they came up with those figures. In an election, you must have you must have a process that justifies the end results, and the process must be above board. So that was basically the question, the whole issue of the Supreme Court. It was mostly a qualitative as opposed to a quantitative analysis of the evidence or the election itself.
All right. Let's talk about your book, and of course, in particular, the timing of this book. The time you released the book is quite interesting. You said you had this book since February. Why didn't you release it then? Why now? Who are you trying to punish?
So that question, I think I've answered that question before, but I want to answer it on this show. Mm-hmm. The reason I finished the book in February, but the reason I didn't release it then is because I still, I am in Azimio, and I'm in Azimio to stay, and I want Azimio in all its plans and in all its challenges against the current government to succeed. And so at that time, Baba had just come back with the whistleblower results, and he had started the movement for mass action, or Maandamano as we call them. And so I had thought maybe it would have been wrong for me at that time to release the book, because it will appear, or I may have even diverted attention from his initiative. And so I decided to give him time and see whether the initiative or the action that he wanted to take will be effective or will bear fruits. And so when I only now eventually decided to release the book after the so-called Easter deal, when Baba called off mass action, I realized that the game is over. The cards are down. Everything is. The dialogue thing is going nowhere. I think in everybody's assessment, I think it's it's a waste of time. And so there's nothing really happening now to prevent me from releasing the book. And so I thought it was time.
So you don't believe in bipartisan talks?
There's no such thing as bipartisan talks. That is just a waste of time. It is a group of legislators, appearing to be, discussing matters that both sides know are going nowhere. If you ask me, I don't want to recommend what action I think would be effective, but this particular action is completely ineffective. And already we can see that the action is really going nowhere. It's a way by the government. It's a clever way by the government to throw something at the Azimio side and keep them busy, make them look like they're being listened to, or they're And also, I think it was a way for the Azimio side to save face by not just calling off the Maandamano without a reason. So I suppose the game is up.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. What were you expecting, of course, during the demonstration staged by Azimio la Umoja before now, giving, at least bipartisan talk a chance? What were you expecting? What was the end game for you?
For the mass action.
Yeah.
So mass action around the world, in democracies that are developed, and in people who understand what the power of the people means, is a way for the people to express their displeasure to those that they have granted the reins of power. It is a way for the weak to impress upon the strong so that they are not oppressed. It's a very fundamental tool, and it's a tool that we must safeguard with everything that we have. And therefore, to me, first of all, just for us to express our displeasure, whether it is on the issues of electoral injustice or justice, whether it is on the issues of cost of living, whether it is on the issue of the broken promises by this government, the mass action for me, it was the way to go. You don't have discussions with a government that has you are saying has taken has stolen your vote. It is oppressing the people. All these things. Dialogue is of no consequence because you're not trying to get to part of that government. Your business as opposition is to make the government either work, or to make their lives completely difficult if they refuse to work for the people. That is the work of opposition. And so for me, I would have wanted, now that we are not going for anything meaningful, for us as Azimio to take our opposition role very seriously and put this government in absolute check without mixing issues. And so therefore, that is why I was in full support of mass action, because this government needs to be put in check, and for this government to remain completely under the people's scrutiny, and for the people to be alert and exercise extreme civic alertness, to be civically alert and active, because a government of this nature that has come in and has started acting in very unpalatable ways, appointing people against the constitution, appointing people who the people themselves have rejected, appointing very questionable characters into very high places in government, bringing in GMOs, allowing matters that Kenyan public, even the Supreme Court itself the other day, introducing LGBTQ rights in a country like Kenya. Those are the things we should have been on the streets about. I would have been on the front line if there was mass action that was specifically, even on the issue of the Supreme Court and LGBTQ. I would have been happy for us to barricade and picket outside the Supreme Court until they review that judgment. That's how you work. You don't work by having no plan. You don't work by acting as if you are responding to everything that that is thrown at you. You work on the basis of a plan and on the basis of a cause of action. So for me, as you see, I have taken a back seat, because I will not be part of something that I feel is going nowhere. I've also, of course, I decided to take time to reflect. And of course, I was also giving my book priority, which I am glad, it has been well received.
Right. You claim to be, still in Azimio. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I'm staying in Azimio. I'm not going anywhere. If you read my book, you will know that my philosophical grounding, some of us, Evans, I'm glad I'm talking to young people. And I want to tell young people that there are three types of men and women. But since I'm a man, I'll talk about men. There are men of wood, there are men of stone, and there are men of iron or steel. When you are a man of wood, a little fire throws you up in flames. If you're a man of stone, you get a little fire and you crack. If you're a man of steel, you love fire. Some of us love the fire. Some of us stay. The fire only makes us better. But I want to tell you, if you read my book, you will see that there's a philosophical grounding in the book. And I have taken time to explain my philosophy in the book. And you will never see me working with this government, because I don't believe in their philosophy or lack thereof, or their ideology. or lack thereof. I will engage and be active in the affairs of this country, simply to bring, I beg your pardon, simply to bring order in the management of our public affairs. I have said that as young people, we must begin to take charge, because we have relegated and delegated our responsibilities to the older people who, in my view, have failed. And we are the greatest stakeholders as young people, because not only do we have, as a people, as a young populace, we have a longer time to stay in a country, in this country. So if it is messed, we have the longest to suffer. But also the young people are the ones who bear the brunt of a mismanaged country, because when there are no jobs, it is the young people who go jobless. When all the systems fail, it is the young people who suffer. And of course, it is the young people who have young children who are going to schools that are, right. Some of them are in schools, others are young and they have young families. So we as young people have the most to basically to lose if the country is mismanaged.
All right.
And yes, so as to answer your question, I am extremely, right now as we speak, my home party is Azimio, and it is because I still ascribe and prescribe to the ideology as the ideology behind Azimio, led by our leader Raila Odinga.
And you're not saddened by the negative light it will shed on Azimio leadership, and of course the party and Azimio leadership in particular. You're not saddened by those, your action, of course, publishing the book that might bring out the negative part of, disorganization that happened within the Azimio la Umoja fraternity.
I don't think it does that, Evans. The book does not portray the leadership, the Azimio leadership in negative light. I think the book actually, in a sense, exonerates them, because the Kenyan people who have been asking, why did Raila lose? I mean, he had the people, and the system was not against them. Even if he didn't have it, it was not against him this time. So it is actually, the book is shedding light as to the factors, because people were confounded and they thought maybe at some point they thought the fault was Raila Odinga's fault, or maybe he didn't even have the people. But now, you have a situation where there is a clear explanation. So the people who are making that argument that maybe the book will paint the leadership of Azimio in a certain light are the people who have not read the book. But also, it is important for us.
All right. I'm sorry to cut you short, but you're running out of time. But there is one thing that I would like to seek clarity from you. Of course, you said election in Kenya are not won, are taken. And even gave account of, the two comparison between the two leaders, that is President William Ruto and Azimio la Umoja leader, that is Raila Odinga. And in your analysis, you said, for this one, Ruto had a plan, and of course, he outsmart you. In this, going by your account of which election are not won but taken, is it fair to say President William Ruto, of course, is, by all means and standard, really, if the word we can use is take, instead of win is legally, and of course all these, the maandamano that Azimio is advocating for are all for nothing, because the election are not won but taken, and President William Ruto, of course, took it.
Yes, that is correct. But I want to say in conclusion that one of the things I've said is that we must begin to reform the electoral system to ensure that elections are actually won. If you read the book, I have given my proposals in terms of that we need to create an IBC that Kenyans can actually believe will deliver a free and fair election. As it has been for the last 20 years, IBC has never been able to deliver a free and fair, credible presidential election. So whoever has been able to take it is the one who took it.
All right. A quick one for you. Are you eyeing any elective seat very soon?
Elections are at least 4 years away, even. So, soon is when is soon?
In the near future. Because this is one question that has been asked by our viewer, of course. Are you eyeing for any elective post in the near future? If I can reframe the question.
I just want to tell the young people of Kenya we'll continue to give leadership. We'll continue to give our ideas and we'll continue to speak our mind. And when the time comes, the young people of Kenya will make a decision on the people they feel are speaking their language.
All right. Saitabao Ole Kanchory, of course, thank you so much for making time to speak to KUTV Primetime News. It always a pleasure, of course, there shedding light on what could have possibly gone wrong for Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate by then Raila Amolo Odinga. Now,